Hey everyone, welcome to this week's development log for Blink. Unfortunately, it's already Wednesday afternoon and I've not made any progress yet this week. I've been playing video games a lot more than I've been developing them, and my guess is that might be the theme for this week since I just started the Witcher 3 expansions and I'm really enjoying them. Anyway, determined to make a little bit of progress this week, so as we usually do, I'm going to sit down at Trello and decide what I want to scope in. Something I really enjoy about writing code and developing games in my free time is that, unlike the code that I write for my job, there's really no pressure here. I can choose to allot as much time per week as I want to it because it's just something I'm doing for fun. And that's kind of reflected here in my Trello board this week. As you can see, it's extremely light. I'm going to finish up the in-game scene, which is left over from last week. Specifically, I need to create a little artwork for the icon that's going to be next to the continue button to let the user know that they'll have to watch an interstitial video advertisement to continue their run. And finally, I'll probably have to create some artwork for twinkling stars in the night sky. To finish up the week, what I'd really like to figure out is implementing leaderboards on iOS. Now, I assume this is going to involve a GameCenter API within Unity. However, I couldn't really find a lot of up-to-date tutorials on the internet for this. So what I want to do is spend some time figuring out the correct way to do this with Unity's native functionality, and I might even end up creating a tutorial video for how to do this, one that's much more up-to-date than the resources I can find out there. So those are the two tasks for this week that I know I want to finish. I think I'm going to start out by pulling out the iPad and getting to work on some simple artwork for the in-game scene. So I'll let you know when I've got that done. Well, here's my first twinkling star. My months of practice with pixel art are really starting to pay off. And here we have a slightly larger twinkling star. These are both pretty simple, but I think they ought to work for now. Alright, last up was the icon for the video advertisement. Now I ended up with this, which pretty much just looks like the YouTube play button, which I think ought to get the message across. Next up is to integrate these into Unity. Hey, and welcome back on this rather dreary Friday morning. It's about 10 minutes past 7, and I actually woke up quite early this morning and have been treating myself to some Witcher. I've got about an hour before I need to get ready for work, so I'm going to try to spend the rest of my time this morning being productive and specifically importing the art assets that I created earlier in the week and incorporating those into my UI. Alright, so I've got the twinkling stars in place. Over here on the right side of my screen is the script that I created. I'm not sure this is the best way to do this, but it's the first way that popped into my head. I implemented it and it works, so for right now I'm going to stick with it. Basically, this script just exists to swap between two sprites. One is, a star that is untwinkled and one that is twinkled. And that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Anyway, we've got a speed at which we want to twinkle, which is calculated as a random value when this object is created so that each star twinkles a little differently. And then in the update function here, we're just swapping between the two. Pretty basic. Now over here in the game, you can see that I've added some game objects with this script to our scene, and these new stars kind of augment the ones that were kind of hard painted onto the existing background. I think they look rather nice. And if I go ahead and lose the game here, we'll see that our in-game scene now has some more life to it in the form of these twinkling stars, which I'm really happy about. So I am pretty content with how that went. The next step, I believe, is to incorporate the artwork for the continue button on the in-game scene. So I've got my little add button implemented into Unity here, and I've got a good idea of how I want to do the canvas for showing the user that they're going to watch a video advertisement. However, it's 7:55, I gotta get ready for work, so we'll have to wrap this up either tonight or tomorrow. I'll catch up with you guys then. Hey everyone, welcome back on this rather dreary Saturday morning. It's about 8 o'clock. I got up pretty early this morning and have been enjoying some Witcher 3, but before I go climbing this morning, I want to make some progress on the in-game canvas scene that appears if you choose to continue your run by watching an interstitial video advertisement. Alright, so here's the basic idea for how I want to create this canvas. You can see over here on the left I've got kind of a prototype of what I want to use, although it's way too wordy right now. There's like too much stuff happening on the screen. So I'm going to refactor that, but I am just going to go ahead and get this hooked up with my logic in terms of when I show it or dismiss it. Basically, I want to let the player know that they can keep playing with their current multiplier by watching a video advertisement. They can click sure or no thanks, and they'll go back to where they were. And I have some kind of little text down here that says only your original score will be applied to the leaderboard. by continuing, you leverage your multiplier to work towards unlocks. And my thought process behind this is, one, I want to make sure the player knows that their global leaderboard standing won't be affected by watching this video advertisement. That's like kind of low-key pay to win, and I don't want to avoid any kind of like ethical bad decisions there. However, I do want to give the player obviously a reason to keep playing. Otherwise, they just wouldn't do it at all, and no one would ever click an ad, and I would never make any potential revenue from this game, which would be nice, right? So what I'm going to be implementing actually is an unlock system. And I've got a lot of work to do here, but basically I think we're going to have different little playable characters in this Firefly, different backgrounds, maybe even different music or something you're going to accrue as you play the game over time. And what this will allow you to do is, if you continue on with your current multiplier, hopefully you'll snowball points and be able to unlock these items quicker, which would be the incentive for doing so. So anyway, that's my thought process here. I'm going to go ahead and make some tweaks and get this hooked up, and I'll show you once I have a final product. So I think I've got my in-game canvas in a good spot now. Let's go ahead and check that out. We'll skip to the end here, and we have the same three options as before, but we'll go ahead and tap continue. And that brings up this canvas, which I've been working on this morning. We've got our graphic at the top here. We've got a little message asking us if we want to continue by watching a video advertisement, highlighting that we'll be retaining the multiplier with which we ended the game. You have sure and no thanks options, and then finally down here the little disclaimer that only your original score will apply to the global leaderboards, which I think is the fairest way to go about things here. If you tap sure, of course I'll have to implement showing an interstitial video advertisement per whatever AdMob plugins Unity has, or you can tap no thanks. If you tap no thanks, it takes you back here, at which point you can potentially change your mind, view the leaderboard, or just choose to go back to the start and play again. So I'm happy with that, and if I'm not mistaken, that finishes up our create in-game scene giant task here that I have in Trello. So we'll check that off, move that to complete, and it looks like the next thing we have to do is implement leaderboards. So I need to figure out what to do about that. I really don't know how to approach this problem, so I'll be back once I have an idea of how to tackle this. Hey everyone, and welcome back again, this time on Sunday morning around 8:45. I would usually have the video posted for this week by now, but I still have not finished up the work I wanted to complete on the leaderboards. And to be honest, I'm not quite sure how much time I'll have to work on that today, but I am going to sit down now and try to make a little bit of progress. I know where I'm going to need to start in terms of writing the code, but I'm unsure how successful I'll be actually testing it on a device and doing that today before I post this video. Anyway, I'm just going to sit down and make a little bit of progress, and I'll show you where I'm starting out with the code for the GameCenter leaderboard. Alright, so I think I've made a little bit of progress implementing this leaderboard stuff, although I haven't tested it yet and I'm sort of flying in the dark. But anyway, here's what I've done so far. You can see here I've got a GameCenter controller script that I created, and I attached that to kind of my main game world, so that this will just, this start mess will get called right when the game starts up. Pretty much here, what we're doing is using Unity's social API, we're authenticating, and then I have two public functions that the game manager can call to report a score to a leaderboard and then to show the leaderboard. And the code in these is almost the same. We basically check to make sure if we're authenticated. If we're not, we will attempt to authenticate. And then if we succeed, we will call the report score function, pass in the leaderboard ID, and I have a callback here, and I haven't implemented these callbacks yet. I don't know if I will ever need to, really. Same is the case with show leaderboard. We'll see if we're authenticated, and if we are, we'll attempt to show the UI. I really don't have any idea how this is going to work out, but we're going to try it. Some stuff I had to do on the back end in iTunes App Store Connect was set up my app, set up a leaderboard and a leaderboard ID, and make sure GameCenter was active on my app. I'm not going to show you how to do that in this video, but I am considering making a standalone video for this, just because I didn't really find anything totally up to date when I was kind of researching how to do this. But if you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer them in the comments. Anyway, I think the next step here is going to be to actually build this to my device and see if I can even get the leaderboard to show up. I think I've got everything in place that I need. So I'm going to try that right now, and succeed or fail, I'll show you guys how it went. Hey everyone, so here's the update. Sorry if the video quality and sound quality is a little different. I'm now recording with my iPad so that I can show you the game on my phone. I just took the progress that I completed this morning and built that to device, and that's what you're seeing right now on my iPhone XS. And go ahead and tap start. You can see the game runs quite well. I'm really pleased with how everything looks. The new particles look really cool. It's been a long time since I had an updated build on this phone, so it's cool to see all that stuff working. So if I go ahead and lose the game, just let that time out. See my new UI here and see the background fade in. Looks really good. And I'm pleased to report that if I tap leaderboard, that worked. I've got a high scores leaderboard, and I can see that right there. So that's super exciting. That worked on the first try, and I just completed all my tasks for this week that I set out to do. So pretty stoked about that. I will look into creating a tutorial for how I did that because it was super quick. There could have been a little more guidance online for it, but I figured it out, which is awesome. So I think I'm just going to end up wrapping up this video now. Thanks for checking out this week's development log for Blink. To sum things up, we made all the changes that I had in mind to our in-game canvas elements. We added twinkling stars to the background, and I got iOS leaderboards working towards the end of the week, and those actually work on my physical device, which is really exciting to see. If you guys have any feedback, comments, suggestions for improvements, anything like that, I'd love to hear from you in the comments section. I make an effort each week to read and reply to all the comments that I get, and in every case where you guys suggest a change or a tweak, I make an effort to include that in next week's development log so you can see that change reflected in whatever I produce by next weekend. So I'd love to hear some feedback. I really appreciate all the support you guys have given me so far, and I'll see you in the next week's video.